Today on Locked On Canadians, we're not too bummed after that overtime loss to the Columbus Blue Jackets, but why does everyone keep looking at us like we're crazy?
You are Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi there, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Canadians. I want to thank you all for making us your first listen of the day and for making us the number one sports podcast network. We love you so much for it, and we thank you so much. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $500 bet wins. My name is Laura Sab, also known as The Active Stick, and I'm joined, as always, by my wonderful co-host, Ian Boisvert, also known as Maybe It's Ian. And Ian, are we the only two people who aren't angry about this loss?
We can't be the only two, just the law of large numbers, right? We can't be the only two. But I was kind of stunned by the reaction to this game.
Yes.
I think people saw the lineups, the line changes, and what the first and second line looked like. They watched the first 10 minutes of the game and they made up their mind about what the game was. And we'll go through some of the numbers in a little bit, but they spell a much different story than what you might hear from other fans or even some folks in the media. But I think most folks in the media are looking at this the same way we are, which is a really nice step back in the right direction for the Montreal Canadiens and a really hard-earned point in a league where it's hard to come by points sometimes, especially right now for this team. So we'll talk about exact reasons why, but I feel really good about this game. And I think the Canadiens should feel pretty good about their game. Lots of things to clean up, but it's not going to be perfect right now. They're gutting this out.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we are going to talk a little bit about some of the major factors in that game. We're going to call out some people who had a really good game and kind of give them their flowers. And then later in the episode, we are going to talk about, we talked about, Ian just mentioned there's lots of things that need to be cleaned up. So we're going to talk a little bit about those and what the Canadiens can do, tweak, change in order to get back into the win column. But I do want to spend this segment kind of talking a little bit about the overall game as a whole. And I will say this, I looked at the underlying numbers, I was keeping an eye on them, and no matter what the metrics were, obviously the Canadiens didn't get a power play, so I didn't really look at the special teams as much. Even strength, all situations, all of that. The Columbus Blue Jackets were better in the first, but the Canadiens ran away with it for the rest of the game, right? Second and third period were great. I would argue that the goals that the Canadiens allowed were really like breakdowns as opposed to poor play. And I think that that's something that, again, we can address in our third segment, something that they need to clean up. But I thought that this was truly like what I'm taking away from this game is that this is something the Canadiens can look at and build on, especially as an improvement over the previous two games. We talked a lot after the previous, I'm going to say after LA and after Dallas in particular, we talked a lot about how the Canadiens should be looking at video and really, changing and improving. And then after the Boston game, we talked a lot about the special teams. Now, obviously, that was not a factor in the game against Columbus, but it looks like the Canadiens were paying attention because they were making some changes. And they were making some changes that that correspond to them having a better game overall. Would you agree with what I just said?
Yeah, the one thing I'll say is, the penalty kill, did give up a goal. That was the only special team that we saw in this
Yeah.
game. And I know I didn't like either of the penalties that were called. I thought that the hook on Davidson had no impact on the play whatsoever. And you see that hook 100 times a game. And I thought the slash they called on Suzuki, he tapped him in the thigh. Like
Yeah.
it did not impede anything. There was no scoring chance that was changed because of what happened. I thought that they were just in a game where a lot of stuff was let go, especially in the third period. Holy cow. Those two just stood out as like, why did you have to make that call?
Yeah. I would say like I didn't mind them at the beginning, and the one against Davidson was kind of expected, like kind of like a welcome to the NHL, right? Earn your stripes kind of thing. It only really bothered me, or like I only found them out of place when I saw what they weren't calling later in the game.
Right.
That really contextualized it for me.
Right. But I think, at 5-on-5, this was the Canadiens hockey game.
Yeah.
According to Natural Stat Trick, they controlled 70% of the expected goals at 5-on-5. 64% of the high danger chances at 5-on-5. about 60% of the scoring chances at 5-on-5. They were the better team in this
Yeah.
game. It didn't look pretty because I think we've grown accustomed to this team scoring a lot of really beautiful goals, scoring a lot of tic-tac-toe, scoring a lot of goals off of the rush. They're not doing that right now, and they have to reinvent their way of going about business. It's the Marty always says, on nights where they didn't have their fastball. Well, when a pitcher doesn't have their fastball, they have to go to other pitches, or they're not pitching in the game anymore, right? You have to trust your changeup, which in this case is something that we talked about on this show, which was put big dudes in front of the net and fire the puck from wherever.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? 2 of the 3 goals in this game were scored by doing just that.
Yeah.
The Jake, I almost called the Jake Anderson goal, the Jake Evans, Josh Anderson goal, where Evans, I don't even think he gets a point, but he's parked right in front of Greaves. Anderson picks up the puck out of the air, puts it down. Greaves has no idea where he is. He can't see him. The Hutson goal, Slafkovsky, right in front of him. Jet Greaves at the end of the night, or any goaltender who the Canadiens are playing against, at the end of the night, should be able to spell Slafkovsky's name flawlessly. They should be seeing his nameplate for most of the game. And that when you're not scoring, that's what you have to do. We said it on the last episode of the show. It was really, really nice to see them realize that and focus on it as a point of emphasis. This is how we're getting out of this. And eventually the other stuff is going to open up. But for now, it's not. You have to score these dumb, greasy, gross goals, and you'll be able to win your way out of this. It was just nice to see them make that pivot and take that to heart. The one thing I was disappointed in was not getting to see the power play, because Marty was like, "We're just going to be better." He very, very much said, he didn't guarantee it, but he said, "We're just going to be better." And I was looking forward to seeing them. We'll have to wait till Thursday, assuming the referees grace us with a measly power play. But I just, the numbers, the way that they played this game, I thought they were phenomenal. I just think, you get to the overtime and the shootout, either one of those are gimmicks.
Yeah.
Right. And the Canadiens, I thought, were the better team at 5-on-5 in this game. Did they deserve more? Maybe, but that's a hard-earned point. They needed to get back in that department.
Yeah.
And I think one is good.
I think, like, when you look at just the score, you're really doing them a disservice, and you're doing yourself a disservice as a fan, right? You have to be able to enjoy the process, because this team was not going to instantly turn into a Stanley Cup contender after last year's playoff run. This team is still fighting for a playoff spot. Like, they're still in that middle of the pack, and they still have to distinguish themselves, right? What you're looking for is for them to actually play in such a way that is sustainable for the future, that does turn them into a contender, right? So that's why I look at the process a lot more than the results right now. And I do kind of really want to quickly talk about Dobes. I think the winner in the shootout that he gave up, that one is probably the only one where I think that he should have had that. After allowing 7 goals against Dallas, like half a week ago, I feel like this is a really solid performance from him. Unfortunately, he couldn't see a lot of the things, and there were a couple of opportunities for the Columbus Blue Jackets to just waltz into his crease. So again, you can't really fault him that much. So, anyone who's losing faith over the fact that the goaltenders both seem to not be doing okay, I think Jakub Dobes is fine. I think he's fine.
I also think, I feel like saying Montembeault wasn't good against Boston is revisionist history. He was really good against Boston. The numbers bear it out. Yes, he gave up the one stinker.
Yeah.
And he needs to cut that out of the game. But he also saved the Canadiens' butts on a regular basis in that game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I noticed it with this game, and I think I'm starting to notice a trend among fans where they just kind of see something happen, and that becomes their entire narrative for the day. And I do that as a meme, like Magic Mike, right? Watch one shift and we go Magic Mike night. Could have done it in this one too. I didn't post it. It's meant to be a bit. It's meant to point out how absurd that is, and how absurd it is for this one player that it's almost always true for this one guy.
Yeah.
But it's not, you can't, I feel like people looked at the lineup get posted, or people, tweeting out the lineups during line rushes and going, well, it's over. We'll talk about Slafkovsky in our second segment here, because I think we really need to. He was unbelievable in this hockey game, and I'm
Yeah.
wondering what they do with him next.
Yeah. And we do need to talk about that. We will talk about what they do in the next segment, but I want to focus on who played really well in that game, because I really want people to see that like this game was actually quite good and quite positive despite the result. And so we'll get like into that. We'll take a look at some numbers, and we'll give some people some flowers in just a moment here on Locked On Canadiens. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA season is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to fanduel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. I cannot wait to tell you about my life-changing jeans from Doer. It's not just jeans. I got a shirt. I'm so excited about this stuff. They have 5 times the stretch of traditional denim, but without looking stretchy. They actually look really nice and put together. So you can wear them to work if you're business casual. You can wear them out for dinner, and you can wear them just, running errands or traveling like I like to do. They're made with Cool Max that regulates your body temperature and wicks moisture away, and it's going to keep you cool. And they feel stretchy. Like I said, they don't look stretchy. Doer is designed to look great and stay comfortable all day, no matter what you're doing. Simply put, Doer makes the world's most comfortable pants without having to sacrifice style. Trust me, once you try these, they'll be your go-to. Get a pair for yourself or as an amazing holiday gift for someone you love. Go now to doer.ca/lockedoncanadians. You'll get 15% off your order. That's DUER.ca/lockedoncanadians for 15% off. Doer.ca/lockedoncanadians. All right. So I did mention Slafkovsky in our show rundown there that you can see if you're watching us on YouTube. However, there's lots of players that we can call out for having a good game. Do we want to like maybe just focus on the good and maybe
Sure.
talk about how to improve the bad later in the segment?
Yeah.
I think Slafkovsky, and this is something that I also want to mention, is that people have been really hard on Slafkovsky of late, and I would say it's been a few weeks of this. However, I don't think Slafkovsky has been playing badly at all. Like, I really, truly, like, the eye test is telling me, and the numbers are telling me that he's been fine, right? And that's why I put first half Slaf there, because I think that he has been good throughout. Like, he had one bad game that I can truly remember out of now 19 games the Canadians have played. One bad game. So a lot of this stuff has been overblown. But you can't watch that Columbus Blue Jacket game and tell me that Slafkovsky was not absolutely a monster in it.
Yeah, and the first line was struggling coming into this one, and they take Slafkovsky off of it. And I know some people, I think, looked at that as a demotion for Slafkovsky. I didn't see it as that at all. I thought it was Marty trying to do what he's done in the past, which is balance his lines, right? He wants to be able to roll all 4 lines. If the first line was going in this one, he almost might have been able to, but they weren't. They struggled. They struggled without Slafkovsky, and Slafkovsky goes to another line with Demidov and Kapanen, and he kind of drives it on his own.
He did. He drove that line. Very much so.
I think it was either their second or third shift in the game. Slafkovsky gets popped at center ice. I don't remember. I don't know if he even got the number on the train, because I certainly didn't. And within 10 seconds, he's up and on a 2-on-1 with Ivan Demidov, getting a chance. The Canadians' first real chance of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that signified that like he's kind of playing a playoff style right now. You're gonna get popped. You're gonna have to get up and recognize I might have a chance to score here.
Mm-hmm.
Like he did not seem deterred by any of that. I was really impressed by his ability to drive a line. I think maybe in the third segment we'll talk about what they do next with that whole experiment, because the other guy that took Slafkovsky's spot was Zach Bolduc, and I don't think he was very good in that. And I think that's going to be something that needs to be revisited ahead of Thursday and Saturday's games.
Yes, we'll revisit that in the third segment. I also
sure.
want to mention Mike Matheson especially, but that Mike Matheson-Noah Dobson pairing was fantastic.
I love Mike Matheson so much, man. He's like, he's my favorite dude. I mean, he set up the first goal of the game just by using his legs, going down low with the puck. You watch Slafkovsky on that play too. He draws attention out of the slot. And when Matheson moves down below the line, he pulls both defenders with him because they're like, we don't know what to do with this. No defensemen aren't supposed to do this. And Kapanen's wide open in front of the net, doing what Kapanen always does, which is go to the net.
Yes.
I mean, that's all he does. Is he just sits in front of the net and he waits for goals to happen.
Yeah. And I thought he and Demidov were also good in this game, and they weren't necessarily just beneficiaries of Slafkovsky.
No.
I think they would have been good either way, but I really liked their combination together. And like we were just talking about Mike Matheson, like he seems to have an instinct, like a positional instinct that like I miss from him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like we've seen it, and I'm going to knock on wood because, you never know. But like this is something that we've seen generally from Mike Matheson throughout the season, like that. And it's not just this pairing with Noah Dobson. It feels like he has a new lease on life, right? But maybe 2 seasons ago, when he was playing like 45 minutes a night, we weren't seeing that because he was just so overused. Like, I think that like giving him a chance to breathe has enabled him to be more cerebral about hockey and just like be in the right place at the right time or make the right decision with the puck. I really like 2025, 2026 Mike Matheson so far. I love this experiment.
Yeah. And, I was kind of nervous in overtime. He ended up taking another shift in overtime, so I'm not all that worried, but he got hit along the wall and sort of there was a battle and it was tough for him to get up. He took a long time getting to the bench. I was wondering maybe if he was just gassed. Cole Caufield took a bump in the third period. He looked a little bothered by that. So, I mean, just put these guys on ice for the next few days and just try to get them to the next game. The last guy I think we need to talk about.
And we need to talk about.
As one of the most dominant players on the ice tonight, if not the most dominant, Lane Hutson.
Yeah.
I mean, looking at
what a game.
Hockey stat cards after every game, they post their game score chart, which is essentially a combination of your offense, defense, your individual and team outputs. He was at a little over 5 game score, which in this one is about 2 Josh Andersons, 2 Jake Evans, 2 or maybe 3 Oliver Kapanens, 3.5 Ivan Demidovs. Like he was that much better than even his own peers who had good nights.
Yeah.
I think Hutson has struggled over the last few games. This was an exclamation point from Lane Hutson that he's whatever funk this team is in, he's pulling them kicking and screaming out of it.
Yeah.
I love that he's able to do that. And he did it the way that he's always done it, with his legs, with his vision, with his hands. He doesn't have to reinvent his game to get the Canadiens to a good place. He just has to be Lane Hutson. I find that that's what's most exciting about him is it's not really a switch he has to flip and become a different version of himself. It's just some nights he's just on. Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you there. And I do also want to really quickly plug, like we did bill it as a bonus episode preview, but it was I had a 10-minute chat with John Forsland, the play-by-play analyst for Prime Monday Night Hockey. I always get the order wrong.
Forsland's the best.
He was really great, and yes, it was a quote unquote game preview, but it was really a little bit more general than that, and there was a lot of insight into not just the broadcast and what they do, but he talked about Lane Hutson as well. He talked about Nick Suzuki as well. Like my heart just grew just listening to it. So like if you haven't had a chance, please do check out our bonus episode that we dropped on Monday afternoonish, and definitely take the time because it really it was billed as a game preview, but it had a lot of insight into both teams. All right, really quickly. Back to Lane Hutson. I think one of the things that I really remember, and I can't remember which scout we had on that said this, so I can't credit it accurately, but somebody said that he's able to slow the game down to his pace if he needs to. And somebody pointed it out. I don't know who was. I want to say was it maybe Arpon Basu or Brian Wild. I'm not sure. But somebody was talking about how he dropped to to 62nd because of his like quote unquote poor skating, and I'm like, that's not poor skating. He was everywhere he needed to be in the amount of time that he needed to be there, and he was able to like, and sometimes like he either escapes the hit or he absorbs the hit, and I don't know how he does it.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is the thing a lot of these scouts miss and a lot of hockey people miss. He's never been big. So he's always had to learn, how do I go into the corner as somebody in my frame going up against somebody like
Werenski.
Werenski, which he did in this game almost flawlessly. Like he has to learn. A lot of times what he'll do is fake like he's going to go for the puck and then get out of the way and let the forechecker get it and then take it away from him. Like, he's very good at using his positioning, using his stick to get underneath guys. Like David Desharnais was incredible at that, right? Like, he would get underneath guys because he was so low to the ground, he could just do that. Like,
Exactly.
I like, everyone gets mad at Corey Pronman, draft writer for The Athletic. And I'm like, why are you guys mad at him? If he's hyping him up, he probably goes earlier and the Canadiens don't get him. Like, thank you, Corey Pronman. Thank you for talking your noise about this guy and letting him get to 62nd overall. You have to also remember, the Canadiens took 3 players before they took Lane Hutson.
Yes.
Like, they weren't sold either at the time. Let's be realistic about what happened.
He's phenomenal. Like, it's still a freaking steal. I can't get over how great he is. And he was truly incredible in this game. He and Slafkovsky really, like, the guys, the guys we think of when we say the future, that's 2 of those guys. And they were really, really good. Okay. So we did talk about who was really good. And then we're going to talk about what needs to be improved and what the Canadiens kind of need to do to get going in order to get back into the win column. And we're going to do that in just a moment here on Locked On Canadiens. This episode is brought to you by Rougiet. Let's be real. Making excuses doesn't solve anything. We've all heard them before. It's just stress, I'm tired, or it happens to everyone sometimes. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support. And that's where Rougiet comes in. Rougiet.com offers fast-acting, doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. Rougiet makes it easy to get started. You just connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online. No awkward waiting rooms and no in-person appointments. If prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly straight to your door. The process is fast, simple, and private, and it's all handled by real doctors. It's about confidence, connection, and getting back to the moments that matter. Visit rugiet.com/lockedonnhl to get 15% off your first order. That's rugiet.com/lockedonnhl. And don't forget to use our code LOCKEDONNHL so they know we sent you. Rougiet. Stop making excuses and start making moves. All right, we did kind of refer to it in the first couple of segments, but the Zach Bolduc on the top line experiment didn't go too well. The top line didn't too well, like you said, like you pointed out, they get hard matched, but also they're kind of banged up. I think Cole Caufield and Nick Suzuki are playing like some bruised guys. And so I'm glad they've got a couple of days in a row off before they have to play the Washington Capitals, who, if the playoffs are any indication, are going to beat the crap out of them physically. So they do need a little bit of a rest. And I really do hope that, it's not as violent as it is in the playoffs. So, like, what do you do then in the case that it's not just Zach Bolduc, right? Like, Brendan Gallagher's having a little bit of trouble, like, physically keeping up just because I think of his age. Like, there's, like, things are not all 100% okay. Like, Joe Veleno he's just Joe Veleno. So what do you do? Like, what do you do with, like, Slafkovsky? What do you do with Zach Bolduc if you want to, like, get back into the win column?
I want to tackle those. I want to tackle the Joe Veleno one first because on Monday at 2:00, we learned that the Boston Bruins put John Beecher on waivers. 25-year-old centerman, 6'3", left shot, last 2 seasons, well over 50% in his faceoffs, penalty killer. It seems like if this guy gets to the Canadiens on the waiver priority, he will be a Montreal Canadien. Like, that's the exact prototype they're looking for. So I'm hoping, by the time you're listening to this, on Tuesday at 2 p.m., we will know who won the John Beecher sweepstakes, if anybody entered. I would be shocked if he gets past Montreal. Like, I just think that that's a slam dunk. Here's how you can help solidify your bottom six, but also get Nick Suzuki off the penalty kill.
Yeah.
I think they need to preserve his ice time as much as possible, and getting Beecher to go out there and win faceoffs on the penalty kill and just play a solid fourth line shift. Like, I don't really have any issues with that. He's, I think he makes $900K. Doesn't hurt anybody.
No.
I think it's a very no risk sort of thing for the Canadiens should they decide to do that. But anyway, aside from the point, I'm really curious to see what the top line looks like in the practices to come before the Washington game. And that's to say that, we might not even get the answer in those, because Nick Suzuki doesn't really practice right now because whatever he's dealing with is really bothering him and they don't want him to practice on it. I don't know if I'd put Slafkovsky back on that line, because I think he did so well on that other line. You kind of want to keep that going. At the same time, Zachary Bolduc cannot play on that line again. You have to try something else. Dare I say?
Are you going to say Josh Anderson?
We know Marty pulls that lever. We know he does it. He hasn't done it in a while. You have to give him credit for that. He did, however, when they were trying to tie the game late, he had Slafkovsky back up on the top line, and he had Anderson with Kapanen and Demidov. I don't really love that long term, but I'm really curious to see what he takes out of this game and what he decides to do, because I just don't think you can go back to Bolduc on that top line. He was by expected goals at 5-on-5, he was the worst Montreal Canadian at 40%. Like, it was on a night where every line was cooking, or every player was cooking in some respect. He had the lowest. He was not a factor in this game. He needs to learn. He needs to figure out what his role is.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that putting him in that situation is helpful.
I do also want to remind people, because I know there's a lot of talk about him, etc. Like, this guy has played 116 games in the NHL, so
yeah,
he's still figuring it out for himself. Let alone for trying to figure out where he falls in this lineup, right? He had a really, really hot start with the preseason and the early games, and I do think that he's not as good as that seemed at the time, and he's not as bad as it seems today, if that makes sense. I think he's somewhere in the middle, and they just kind of have to figure out what's going to get him going, and maybe have him not hinder the top line. I do think we are going to see, unfortunately, Josh Anderson on the top line. And the only reason I say unfortunately is because I feel like he and Evans are such a, they're that duo.
Yeah.
And that's tough to break up. That kind of saddles Jake Evans with a different kind of assignment. But that said, they did, instead of shooting pass to each other today, I think it was Evans that passed to Anderson as opposed to taking the shot, or was it the other way around?
Yeah, and he shouldn't have done that. We want to talk about getting the team going.
They got to hit the net.
Shoot the puck. It starts with shooting the puck, which this game they did a little bit more. They got over 30 shots. That was a good positive start.
Yeah.
But you also got to hit the net. But you're not going to hit the net if you don't shoot.
It's kind of twofold. Like, you have to make the goalie's life hard, and you have to shoot the puck. And I feel
even if you want to get it to Anderson there, put the puck into Greaves' pads.
Yes.
Because if he burps up a rebound to Anderson, sick, he's right there. If he somehow lets it in, even better. Trying the pass there, I hate that play, especially the Canadiens in this game. How many odd man rushes did they get? 2? You got to find a way to generate a chance.
Mm-hmm.
I just had a really hard time with that play. I liked Evans and Anderson's game for most of the night. That was the one play I was like, come on.
You are way more grown up. You know better, right? You're not a child anymore. We forget when we were talking about the giving players the flowers. I know we talked about Slafkovsky driving that line, but Ivan Demidov, keeping the puck, right?
Yep.
Or losing it and then getting it back. Just watching him, I just love seeing that. It's just, it's just such a beautiful thing to watch.
Yeah, I found that the team as a whole, I thought worked a lot better on the cycle in the offensive zone, which is something that I don't think that they've scored a lot off of this year. They score a lot on the rush. I liked the way that they worked that they worked that, especially with how the defensemen that they have that are very apt to jump up in the play. You know, Matheson obvious, Dobson obvious, Hutson obvious, but like Carrier likes to do that too.
Yeah. Oh,
Every
Carrier
once
was
in a
good
while,
this game too.
I thought he was great.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, you look up and Carrier's at the faceoff dot, and you're like, "What are you doing down there?" he is very comfortable activating.
Yeah.
So when you get a cycle going with those guys and you allow your D to activate, you're going to find those guys open elsewhere, like we saw on the Kapanen goal.
Yeah.
Eventually, that's going to be, instead of a Kapanen in that spot, Caufield will be open there. It'll be Slafkovsky or Suzuki open in that spot. So like this, they have to just keep grinding. They have to keep grinding this out and gutting it out. I think, to put a bow on this whole episode, I think this was a great get right game. They didn't win it. Would winning the shootout have made any of you feel better? If you hated that game for the reasons that you hated that game, them winning in the shootout would not have solved anything for you. You would still have woken up today upset about what you saw. On the other hand, we're pretty stoked with the way that they played, and it didn't change the way that we thought about it.
No, absolutely not. And again, yes, you do want the wins. Yes, you do want the points. Yes, you want fewer wins in overtime or in a shootout. Yes, all of that. But this is something that they need to build on. Like they were in danger of a prolonged slump, and I don't feel that way anymore. Like after the Boston game, which was a huge improvement over the Dallas game, which in itself was, despite the score, an improvement over the Los Angeles Kings game.
It's so weird, but you're right.
Yeah, I know, I'm right.
Yeah, it's just weird to look at a 7-0 loss. You're like, you know what? We took some good steps that game. It's very funny.
Yes, but see, like, you're getting closer and closer. First you allow 7 goals, and you allow what was it, 3-2, the loss
Something
against
like
Boston? Something like, I can't even remember anymore. See, like, I can't even remember, because what I was thinking about is all the power plays they didn't score on, but then the rest of the game was good, right? So again,
we can't be mad about the power play. They didn't even get one against Columbus. We have to.
Yes, I agree. All right. So I hope listening to this episode has made you guys feel better. If you were open to feeling better about this game, I hope that this episode was solidified it for you. We did mention this yesterday in our yesterday episode. Trivia is going to be back on Thursday. We've recorded a bunch of episodes out of order, and there was a bonus episode. There's all kinds of stuff this week. So trivia will be back on Thursday. In the meantime, we do have a special episode that we've already recorded for tomorrow. If anyone misses Scott and his rocket reports, he's going to be back on tomorrow's episode. And we're going to also talk a little bit about, who gets called up with all these injuries, all of that kind of stuff. We recorded that as the Kirby Doc news was breaking. So there is a little bit of reaction to that there as well, just in terms of what do the Canadiens do? Where do they go from here? So we'll see all of that. So that episode is coming up tomorrow. And then we'll be back to our regular schedule on Thursday. In the meantime, make sure you're subscribed to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. As you know, we are now the #1 sports podcast network, which we really, really love. Thank you all so much. Also, make sure you find us on social media. We're Locked On Canadiens on TikTok, on Blue Sky, and on Instagram. We're also at lockedoncanadiens@gmail.com if you want to email us mailbag questions, or if you just want to, send us thoughts, etc., etc. Don't forget to check out that bonus episode that we dropped on Monday afternoon. It was a huge get for us, and we're so grateful for that. And if you want to find my co-host on social media, he's at Maybe It's Ian. If you want to find me on social media, I am at The Active Stick. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back with Scott tomorrow.